This is the Nissan Almera, as it is known in the Southeast Asian region. Depending on where you're located, this car is also known as the Nissan Versa or the Nissan Sunny. Well, I've owned this car for exactly 2 years now, so I think it is time to do a sort of long-term review on how this car is like to drive on a day-to-day basis. But before that, a bit of a history lesson. The brand new Nissan Almera began its life as the Nissan Versa, originally released in the North American market in April 2019. At the same time, the outgoing Nissan Almera in the Southeast Asian region has begun to show its age, so it's only logical for Nissan to replace it with a brand new model as well. But there's a problem. You see, the Nissan Versa comes with a 1.6-litre engine, which is an even higher capacity compared to the 1.5-litre engine used in the outgoing model. And this means that this car will be incurred with the higher taxes, and it will not be eligible to be certified under the Thailand Eco Car program. And it's also not logical for Nissan to put a 20-year-old 1.5-litre engine into their brand new model. And so they needed something new. So Nissan looked around the engine catalogue and found that there's a 1-litre turbocharged engine that was co-developed with Renault. It is known as the HR10 DET engine, and it turns out this was the perfect choice. So this engine is not really powerful. It only has 100 horsepower and 152 Newton meters of torque, so it definitely would not win any award when it comes to performance. But it more than makes it up with its exceptional fuel economy. Even though if you look at the paper, it only says 5.4 liters per 100 kilometers. I have this little spreadsheet that I'm going to show around here. I've achieved throughout the entire year a fuel economy of about 5.7, 5.8 liters per 100 kilometers, which is pretty close to the actual claimed fuel economy. And one of the reasons why this car is so fuel efficient is actually down to the CVT. Now usually when you have a car with this sort of engine capacity, when you're cruising at 110 kilometers an hour, which is the usual cruising speed for the motorways in Malaysia, it will usually hovers at about 2,500 to 3,000 RPM. Whereas this car, with its CVT, it will hover at just 2,050 RPM, just below 2,100 RPM, and that is 110 kilometers an hour. So which means that this car has the same cruising RPM as a much bigger sibling like an Audi Q5. But one thing that I really like about this engine is the mid-range acceleration. So 70, full throttle, 100. Takes about, 3 to 4 seconds? One thing that I don't quite like about the CVT is when you're doing an acceleration from zero. While typical cars, when you fully press on the pedal, the gearbox will react and say, okay, I have to go. Now this car is a bit like, who am I? What am I supposed to do? And then literally 1 second later, the car will be like, I'm on gearbox. I'm supposed to change gears. So when you're starting from a standstill, there's always a 1 second delay between when you put your foot down and when the car actually starts accelerating. I'm going to do a quick acceleration. Put it in sport mode, air conditioning off. There's 110. Okay, so let's talk about NVH. Now, the NVH has improved, obviously, from the previous generation. And we have to give Nissan some credits because they actually put quite a bit of noise insulating materials. So for example, they actually put a few pieces of sponge right around the engine bay to stop any kind of wind noise. And talking about wind noise as well, this car doesn't have much of it. Partly because it has a very low drag coefficient of just 0.28, which means that it will bring lower noise levels and also a much improved fuel economy, especially when you're cruising at 110 kilometers per hour on the motorway. Now, I would say that 90% of the noise actually comes from the chassis and also the tires. But I think if we were to replace it with comfort-oriented tires, but we can reduce the noise by quite a bit of percentage. Now, in terms of handling, well, you shouldn't expect too much from handling from this car, because at the end of the day, this is still an eco box. But you can have some occasional fun, because this car is fitted with quite a large tire for its class. It has a 16-inch wheel sitting on a 205/55 profile tires. For example, when you're taking a highway exit, you can easily do 75 to 85 kilometers per hour without losing control. So yes, overall, I would say that this is a pretty refined car. In terms of the engine noise, there isn't much, especially when you're cruising below 2000 RPM. You can't really hear the engine at all. They are quiet, they are refined. Well, apart from when you're stopping in the traffic light, it is still a 3-cylinder engine after all, and it will still vibrate. But not by much, because Nissan has also strengthened the engine mounting in this car. So yes, overall, the engine is also very good. In fact, they don't just use the engine right in this car. They also use it in the Renault Clio and also the Dacia Sandero in the European market. Now, I'm not sure about the others, but I personally really enjoy the interior. Well, I don't really mind the polarizing design, no pun intended. It has a black dashboard going on right here with a white color soft touch surface and also a white color roof as well. I think that it gives a bit of a contrast to an otherwise boring all black interior. And also one thing that I like particularly about this car is that you do get some of the parts from a more premium model, such as the air conditioning control, which is lifted from the Nissan Serena, the steering wheel from the Nissan Almera, the Nissan Leaf and the Nissan Kicks, and even the window controls from a Nissan Almera as well. You also do get a pretty comfortable seat, and you won't feel too much of a fatigue even when you're driving this car for like 3 to 4 hours at a time. Now, in terms of build quality, I would like to give Nissan some credits. Now, these are not the terrible hard plastic you get. It is a kind of it is still hard plastic, you can probably hear, but it has this sort of texture going on, and it looks soft. And, you know, it is pretty robust. Things are built pretty well. And the steering wheel is also at the right thickness and diameter as well. So, yes. So some of you may be asking, like, why did I get this car in the end compared to its peers? Well, I think there are a few reasons. The first thing is this car shares the similar design language as its bigger sibling, namely the Nissan Almera and the Nissan Maxima. And the second fact is that it shares some of the components from its bigger sibling as well. For example, the air conditioning controls, the steering wheel and window control. I know these are little things, but it really helps to bring a much better value proposition to a car, especially of this class. And also, let's not forget that this is also one of the more tech-loaded models available in Malaysia, namely with the 1-liter turbocharged engine, with the full suite of safety features, rear cross traffic alert, blind spot monitoring, autonomous emergency braking, and many other things. And these are the things that matters to ensure your safety when you're driving on the road. So my take is this: if you're passionate about technology and you don't particularly care about resale value, then I think that this car is a pretty good car in its class. And with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.